Okay. Hello everyone, welcome to tonight's episode. Tonight. This episode is a tribute to one of my favorite poets, and I think one of the most incredible human beings that has ever lived on this planet. His name is Jalaluddin Maulana Rumi. He has a quote where he says, "A secret freedom opens through a crevice you can barely see." And so in this episode, I wanted to speak about, in some sense, how would I say it? I wanted to speak about how there's a sort of silence. In this lifetime of mine, I've personally felt a silence and a strange solitude where it is not comparable to anything. It is when the being gets to confront what they are. So most people, they don't have, I feel, an energetic, they don't have, they fear their energetic confrontation. That means for some people, I think it's still early for the civilization, but I think if a human being right now could see themselves as pure energy, it would blow their mind. It would be inconceivable. Right now, we're creatures that are conditioned through conception. Now, this poet Rumi from 700 years ago, he was a Sufi. And the Sufis had this mentality where they would say, in some sense, you need to die before you die. And some people would be like, what do you mean die before you die? Are you insane? And the Sufis would be like, no. We don't mean physically die before you die. We mean the ideas on life. The idea you have on life shifts experientially. That's what the Sufis meant, to die before you die. The idea of you dies before the potential of you. Do you know? By the way, this picture, I believe that's Krishna. That's something I really adored about the ancient world, that they cared to have their symbols be meaningful. You see a lot, you know how many statues, guys, have been made? Like a lot of, like, if you go look at a sculpture, I think they owe, as sculptor, they owe their whole, like, craft to gods, because man made statues for the gods. Do you understand? Like back in the day, some person in their inner realm, it was important for them what they perceived, and they externalized it. Man is not here to just walk on a flat earth, you know? Walk on a flat appearing round earth, you know? And I'm not saying this earth is flat, but if we think multidimensionally, it could be a sphere on top of a plane. Like that could be a potential, maybe, I don't know. It's not that the world is round or flat, it's that it's both. Maybe. Maybe in some sense it can never be flat because of our sight, who knows. But anyways, guys, I'm going to get to the point. The idea was that people would make statues, okay? They would make giant statues. Look at this wallpaper. That's a giant statue. I mean, I don't know if anybody made a statue that big, but I've seen statues of Buddha that are big, that are like maybe up to the guy's knee, you know? There is something throughout one's normal life. When I look back at my life, there was something where it was like I was trying to go towards what was normal, but not the normal of myself. I was going towards the normality of others. That's a good way of saying it. It was as if the voice of the external, the in front of your eyes environment, it was like that voice of that environment was too loud in my childhood. That means the environment programmed me. And there are some ways the environment programs you can't do anything about. It's just like learning the alphabet. It's like, what are you going to do? You're going to, like, forget the letter A you memorized? So alphabets we remember. I'm just saying after some point, It's kind of like this. It's like sorry guys, there's a picture behind my eyes. I just want to paint it. How do I say it? I didn't even know my life existed when I was young. I didn't realize that I could have a moment alone with the cosmos and wonder about it anew. That didn't occur to me for a long time. Do you know? And I don't know. Life moves. Life is a moving phenomenon. I mean, whether you see this universe as lifeless or filled with life, it's moving. Whatever it is that's happening here in this cosmos, regardless of our acuteness or precision in defining it, it is a happening. So the first thing that the human being knows for certain is that life is a moving thing. So it's like you shouldn't live this life as if as if you read the Wikipedia article on horse riding. You should live this life as if this life is a horse. It's alive. You can't ignore its life. That's the most crucial thing. You see, because it's so easy to get rejected from the external realm, and I'll tell you what I mean by that. That's not, when I say rejection from the external realm, I mean there are certain moments where the world not only pulls you, or there are certain moments where it pushes you away. You won't believe, guys. I'll tell you an example. I was in a fight. This is years ago, like maybe 7 years ago or something. I was in this line of this club, and there was this person. We were all in this packed lineup for this club in London, Ontario. And what ends up happening is that there's a person in front of me in line, and this is way before I was like who I am now, you know? And what really happened was that this person in front of me, you know how sometimes, I mean, it's typical, it's for all guys. When you're in front of a girl you want to show your best self, right? So there was this, anyways, I get in this kind of argument, and the other person's kind of wants to show off in the situation. So it's this situation whenever someone's nostrils that means literally their nostrils just open up. That means that person's about to hit you, about to fight. So I was in this line, and I had a totally different character than as you see me now. I was way more arrogant and more of a hole, you know? And so what the situation was that in that moment, I just see that our verbal confrontation has reached a point where this kid's nose is flaring up and his body posture suddenly has gone straight. It's like, something. And that was the situation, guys, where I'll never forget, because I hit the guy first. I could just see the fight was going to happen, and then we start fighting in the line, and I can't tell you guys, it was so strange. Out of nowhere, this Navy SEAL bouncer comes. He grabs me from my hoodie, and literally pulls me out of there. He grabbed and there was a fence by it would go under your arm, and there was a fence that high. So this guy uses my hoodie, somehow throws me up above the fence, and instantly takes me out of the fight. But he puts his knee, he puts his knee on the back of my head. So my head, imagine my hoodie pulled completely. I'm pulled out onto the other side of the fence. The guy's put his knee on my kind of shoulder to keep me down. And there's a taxi car where the light of the taxi car was right outside my hoodie. That means literally if that guy hadn't pulled my hoodie, I would be blinded by the right light of front light of this taxi car that was there. Anyways, nothing happened to me. It was so weird that I didn't even feel the thing. But then my brother was also in the line, and the story gets intense. I end up seeing the guy again, and then I see he's hit my brother. Then I go hit him. It's like this twin thing. I don't know how many people are twins listening to this, but when your twin brother is like in a fight, that you're technically in the fight, you know? Oh man. But anyways, the whole point of me sharing that story with you was that it was as if I got pulled out of the hostility. And it was strange. It was strange. It was literally like, even though I wanted to fight, some force outside of my will pulled me out of that situation. That's what I mean, this world is alive. That means even though we have free will, this world is not like for solipsists. That means it's like, just because I think, it doesn't mean it's going to happen. It doesn't mean only my inner realms exist, right? Life is very fascinating. It's like you are watching your autobiography. Imagine somebody wrote an autobiography of your life and they made a film of it and you were playing that film. You were the main character in that in that film that was made from this autobiography of your own life. You know? Anyways, my point is, that was an intense night, but intensity sometimes comes, sometimes there's chaos, sometimes there's order, sometimes there's mercy, sometimes there's wrath, sometimes there's ignorance, sometimes there's clarity, sometimes there's authority from clarity, and sometimes there's authority from ignorance. Sometimes the environment can't see you. That's the thing, you know? It's like sometimes I am so convinced that the issue of this world is not just people not realizing their opportunity of existence. It's just that there are so many opportunities, but people, there's so many, just like how any generation in any time in any period of history, there has been technologies that have been lost. For example, I consider it to such a complex level that, for example, Nikola Tesla, Edison, when you look at these, Albert Einstein, when you look at these people, you kind of see, it's as if like, imagine Einstein was washing dishes instead of writing his essay of super relativity. And imagine Einstein had decided to never do anything other than wash dishes. He would suddenly see that another life could have waited for him, could have awaited him. And that's the thing, guys. There was a point in my life where I felt I was meant to go into mathematics and engineering. There was a point in my life where I felt I had to go into business. There was a point in my life, then eventually I realized it is not that. Those were just the seasons passing. There is something here. There's something here that is you. And Alan Watts says, the real you, you know? But the real you is not in reality. The real you is not real. That's what I'm telling you. It is not a form. It's a witness. That means all this time, all the people who have walked this earth that have spoken about the mind is not an object. It's not a thing. It's the viewer. It's the viewer. It's the watcher of the moment. It is just space being. Do you see? That means your mind is how you're being space. Your body is how you're being matter. And that's why we're creatures of mind and matter. Matter is the space for the internal object. Anyways, guys, I'm trying to get to this point of this feeling, which is this strange nostalgic compass, this sort of remembrance. And this is so crucial, guys. So many people think that, in some sense, their external life has nothing to do with their inner life. I am telling you, behind your eyes, you are existing higher dimensionally with more freedom. What does that mean? That means, just check this out. I'm a creature right now, as we all are human beings, we're creatures. Now, I look at this kind of like semi-warm powder mocha coffee I made. When I say powder, guys, I mean literally like from a packet. So when I look at this coffee, do you see its temperature of the water? It's abstract. I don't experience the temperature. My hand is not in the cup of coffee, but I know it's semi-warm because of before, you know? I'm just saying that in front of my eyes, just the coffee cup. It needs to remain just a coffee cup. In front of your eyes, just a human being. Have the ability to just be a human being. But behind your eyes, your inner realms update this. That means this was an empty cup. My inner realm saw coffee in it. Do you know? The coffee didn't have an intelligence to just go in the cup. The inner realms update the outer realms. So technically this means that we should live in way more advanced ways behind our eyes. We should be living in an advanced civilization behind our eyes. In front of it, we have to build it. So you see, it's two human beings. We're not that intelligent as creatures, okay? We're not like super intelligent AI that has access to all information. We are pretty much, everybody has like their hands open, just like Oliver Twist style. Sir, can I please have some more? You know? And who's the person throwing that grub on your plate? In Oliver Twist style, that's the world. The world reveals dimensions of itself differently. The world is technically, like, check it out, guys. I don't know how to say it, but the world is our subjective God. I feel we are multidimensional beings. I feel it has been our birthright to remember our multidimensionality. I feel we have designed a civilization that is obsessed about what it can only see, but sight is different. And it becomes different in two different ways. If you zoom in, if you zoom out, there's all those variations, but there's also the context, what you see from what you look at. There are two people who can look at Mona Lisa, and one of them has no idea who drew this, and he's like, all right, it's just a picture of a simple woman. But then somebody sees, like this, Da Vinci drew this. And he drew it at a time where he was infusing a method of self-portrait with the other. So when you see that, technically, how Da Vinci has drawn, he has used the same drawing technique as he would draw his own self-portrait, but he's managed to mesh in another human face. And it was like the wife of some duke. Like some rich guy's like, draw my wife, Da Vinci. And Da Vinci was like, all right, man, you better fund my business. Oh, man. I notice an authentic fear that most human beings have to go see what the world is, which can deviate from what they want it to be. Okay, welcome to the chat section, everyone. I have, in my personal life, that secret freedom that Rumi speaks about, if I could relate to it somehow. It came when I realized I have no idea how the moment is held. I could have many ideas on what I see, but if there's more than what I see, I don't know, and I basked in that unknown. I basked in that unknown as if it was the endless light and darkness of the cosmos, as if this on and off switch effect of light, sunlight hitting the earth and not hitting the earth. You see, that's the dualistic mind. On some level, I was like, what the hell? Why is mysticism having something against duality? What is wrong with duality? Why is Advaita the singular? Why are we going towards non-duality? in mysticism. I wondered that. And I realized, because imagine everything was matter, okay? So if you want to see something beyond the definition of what you're looking at, it can't be defined by what you're looking at. I am just waiting to see all those people in this life that have shouted, I need to see it to believe it. I want them to try to see the seer, the one who is looking through your eyes. Try to see that. And tell me, is it liquid or is it solid? Is it changing all the time? Or are we living in a painting? Are me and you existing in a painting where we can have one truth, one belief of it? Or is it a changing film? There's a dynamism to the world? Okay? So when it was, I don't know how to say it, but we can't ignore minds. You know what's going on? Here's the pattern, guys. Here's the pattern. This is what's happening. Friedrich Nietzsche said, this German philosopher, Austrian German, is he German? He has to be German. Nietzsche, there's no, like Nietzsche sounds German. It has to be German. Yeah, German philosopher. Friedrich Nietzsche said, God is dead and man killed him. Mr.Within wondered about who's the next victim. I realized the next victim is the unknown, and then from the unknown is the mind, and from the mind is the inner workings of the imagination. Some force is trying to disconnect a moment into segments of itself. That means it's kind of like, wait a minute, just like how there's a force like gravity, could we say there's a force in nature that endlessly breaks things? And I was like, universe, are you playing basketball with matter? What are you doing? Are you like bouncing it between existence and non-existence, existence and non-existence, various sensitivities, various ranges? Do you know? The greatest moment of my life was, in some sense, noticing the physical realm here. For me, the most spiritual moment of my life was noticing that I'm a material being, because then came the wonder of how. And it's like you how yourself towards eternity. You why yourself to eternity. It's like, the guy goes to heaven, and they're like, how'd you get to heaven? And the guy's like, I pretty much just said why. And the people and the beings in heaven were like, what do you mean you said why? And the guy's like, I just said why. I said, why is this happening? Why is that happening? Why is this happening? Eventually, I questioned everything that I questioned earth. I questioned hell. And then I was only left to come to heaven. And then the person's like, okay, so now that you're in heaven, what are you going to do? And then the guy's like, I'm going to ask, why am I in heaven? And it's the ever-presence of the dynamic changing mind. It's like this. It's like, how can we consider a force alive? That's the question. And a force is alive by the alphabet, the context of its field. It's a field. We think we're people right now. But all visible phenomenology is particles moving in some river dynamic unknown field state. Imagine the person, let's create a playful story where the person suddenly finds an audience with the creator of the universe. And the person's like, God, please answer my question. And God comes. And God says, what is it? What do you want, man? And man says, how are we here right now? And God looks at man and says, because I said so. And man looks at God and says, why? Why did you say so? why existence, why are we right now, as we are alive, why are we on that side of the coin, which is the existence. Shaman saw it as two sides of the coin: the spiritual realm, a realm where mind moved matter, and in some sense a physical realm where matter moved mind. You see, guys, I think death is a man-made idea. And I also think life is a man-made idea, just like God is a man-made idea, if you were to consider it from a secular context. That means any idea in the mind of man, it is in some sense considered to identify with the person. I am telling you that we are an opportunity. We are those human beings. We are those, guys, pretty much we are beings in a universe that I feel we are in two dimensions simultaneously. I feel that we are oscillating between the void, the singular, and the dualistic and the infinite. That's it. If somebody said, in this box of existence, in this, imagine the whole cosmos, all it's including all a multiverse, okay? Imagine a multiverse cosmos, a multi-cosmo, you know, a multiversal cosmos, you know. I mean, that would be countless, guys. The moment we bring in parallel universe theory, you know, after some point, it is in some sense infinite. What do you want me to do? Count infinity for you? We are living in sand castles. I consider when I give these talks, I consider all language to be a sand castle. Believe it or not, I consider it will all break. So I'm pretty much preparing myself in this life to watch how everything goes forth. And I think this is why I have a great honor for filmmakers. You know, some people are like, okay, these people are just, you know, putting whatever thing they feel it sells. I mean, I'm not going to deny that a lot of filmmakers just want to make money. They forget that it's an art form, that there is a language to cinema, that they're all just going based on their... Anyways, that's a different talk. I have been honored by my mind. I have been exiled by my intuition. I have experienced inner realms of wrath. I have experienced inner realms of bliss. I have piloted through various associations with dialogue. So what does that mean? That means if you had person A and person B in a room, okay, and person A and person B were speaking, in some sense, their speech would be the creation of a new reality. So when you're becoming friends with people or you're socializing with people, you're in some sense, you're going there as a world, they're going there as a world, and your communication is the co-creation of the world. Do you know? That means love, there's two types. There's blind love, you know, where the person is in love with what they don't know. They don't know. It's like, you know, it happened to me in my youth when this girl was incredibly beautiful to me. Like I had made myself to kind of love her. You know, I felt she was so pretty. My mind had made, like literally, I felt like I loved her. If she was in some issue, I would probably go and help her. You know, but the thing was, I didn't know who she was. And it was just the action of a glimpse. And so I'm saying, then I realized who she really was, and then I was like, whoa, 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 I dodged a bullet there. You know? So I'm telling you, that's blind love. But then there's a love of where you and that other human being begin walking in the trenches of life together. And then that love is like your eyes, your souls have seen the same world to remember each other, you know. So life is very experiential. You know, and we are not just, you know, free will is an illusion. Like I laughed, guys. I was like, the secular society denies God. The scientific community thinks God's woo-woo, but on another level, they think free will is an illusion. It's like WTF. It's like, what does that mean? That means what is denying, that means, for me, I was like, what does this mean? Does that mean that, of course, guys, I'm sharing my views. Aristotle has this quote. He says it's a sign of an educated mind to entertain an idea without accepting it. So just like when you watch a film, you don't like throw something at the screen. You know, so I'm just sharing my view, guys, here. But here's the thing. I feel that when you really go and see uh, the materialistic viewpoint renders itself void because ultimately, before you're a person, you're just a movement of a process of the laws of the universe. The laws of the universe don't have personality because if we gave the laws of the universe personality, that would technically be God. Okay? God is like when in the 6th century people looked at themselves, they saw themselves as a person, they looked at the cosmos and they're like, wait a minute, what if the cosmos has you know, there's a person to it. So it's the infusion of our inner realms. It's literally, God is how you see you are alive is reflected in what you see. So I thought it's strange because it's like I have a lot of respect for Christopher Hitchens, even though some people may wonder why. I have a lot of respect for him. Me personally, guys, I'm like kind of like in my own school of thought. I feel that language can't contain truth, so it's like whatever I'm saying right now can never be like the whole percentage of the sight, inner sight. Language is never that advanced. But geometry is different. I feel the mind of man is going to awaken to geometry. I think as I speak right now, so many random human beings in the world are drawing geometric patterns on paper. I feel that geometry is going to infuse with our psychologies. We're going to look at our cities, we're going to look at our environment, and we're going to ask ourselves, what does the species deserve? Not what you deserve, not what I deserve. What does our species deserve? What does this process that has continued for 4 billion years, like, you kidding me? You know, on some level, it's like that. Let me tell you, I have a regret of my something that, like, I went towards mysticism, and then let me tell you what happened. It's like first you're trying to escape the suffering of your condition, like the condition of life you're in, whatever it is, right? So the people have to realize, alongside their articulation of ideology, the emotions they bring to the table of wanting to articulate ideas beyond their individuality is still under the influence of their individual identity and emotion. So technically these talks are as good as how I feel, you know? I feel we have feared evolution because we've thought that we have to be like the past. I was like, whoa. Whoa, are you telling me children, the future generations, they feel their past was so, like, let me tell you, this is when you know the past has failed, when the future doesn't remember it. That's how you know the past didn't deserve. Do you know? Because I am telling you guys, let me tell you what I realized. Your inner realms are endless angles upon phenomena. So again, like right now, I don't know how to say it, folks. Your eyes are where the world is happening. Your eyes are your access point to to the expression of intelligence. Everything has a sort of container, you know, and man is the only physical phenomenon that has a non-physical containment of itself. That means when you look at animals, guys, for me, it's like, let me tell you, if we really felt we were animals, we would not eat animals. We would study them. We would study them as if invisible to them. Literally, I don't know how to say it, but like, sorry guys, had to take a quick intermission there. Anyways, pretty much Mr. Within is saying, you've been studying how your body moves your whole life. Just try studying your mind and realize the mind is not an object, but the mind is an awareness to how the object is simultaneously seen as a subject. So right now, when I say these words, we have two dimensions of access to them. They're just sound. I just made sound as a creature, or I meant something, or in the attention somehow gave momentum to existence, to expression. For me, it's not like everything has deeper dimensions. You can't like it's everything can be like a door you open. In my youth, I remember writing this thing where I was like, it was the first article I remember ever writing in my life. And I was 11, and I was in Iran. I think we were visiting for the summer, and I can tell you that I had heard this article that it was at the time. Of course, the article's questionable now. I've even questioned it in some talks. But I'm telling you, at that age, when I was 11 in Iran, I had heard this thing about we as human beings use 12% of our brain, and it's like other animals are using more. So I was like this young kid who had heard that I'm only using 12% of my brain, and I was like, how do I use the other 88? And that question, I remember trying in my youthfulness, I gave an answer to it. And I said it's literally like a door. I remember my handwriting was so. I have it still today. One day I'll maybe post it for people. Like I had so many spelling errors. But I remember that's what I wrote was that I put this analogy of like literally being in a room with many doors, and you have a keychain with endless keys. And sometimes you can, I was writing it in that, sometimes you can open the door and see that the room is empty. Sometimes you can open the door and see there's another door. Sometimes you see you can't find the key to the right door. Do you know? And I think that's the way we should see it. The mind is like a giant keychain, you know? And it's all the various angles, classifications, everything your eyes have been exposed to is like part of the body of your mind, right? You're not just a body here. This is why after some point, it's like anytime I see a sort of violence and racism, and guys, I saw racism in front of me once. It was messed up, to a point where I got like this, Persian anger. Do you know? It's like, let me tell you, Oscar Wilde has this incredible quote. He says, give a man a mask and he will tell you the truth," something like that. Oscar Wilde. I mean, I don't know much about him, but I know some of his quotes that I've seen online. Anyways, there is cruelty. We evolved from savage animals. Recently, we have access to multidimensional perspectives. Technically, everything you as a human being see every day, you are in some sense, like, think about it. Like, this is strange, sometimes I feel like, not recently, but like a while ago, I would feel, I had one night where I felt literally my self-worth drop. Like from from like a skyscraper. It was a very, anyways, low moment. But then when you kind of look at the past, you're like, wait a minute, compared to every person who's lived in the past, I've achieved more. I mean, like, when you think about it, it's strange, guys. What is success? For those people in the past, immortality, them existing and surviving to the fittest as long as they can, was like their success. But me and you who are alive now, we are technically the success they wanted. Do you know? We have access to the world they couldn't see. And there will be children who will have access to worlds that I won't see. Like, literally, that's nature. It's kind of like a tag, you're it now. It's like that's it. And what is that tag, you're it? Pretty much you from, I don't know, I mean, there's certain, right now I feel we should have a totally new civilization reform. It's like, yo, let's sign a petition and change what civilization looks like. Right now, it's civilization 1.0. Civilization 2.0 is accessible. They say this, that sometimes, like, fish are drawn to sugar. So some people, it's not a good thing, but some people would put sugar on, like, their fishing rod or whatever. on the, what do you call that? And anyways, like the fish would come towards it and eat it. And it was this strange thing where I remember once this memory of this kind of fishing line being in water and all the fish running towards it. Okay. And I see for human beings, it seems to be the same with ideas. When I'm looking at consumerist society, it's like people are like throwing a new shoe in the air and everybody's jumping to grab it. It's like we are so object obsessed. It's weird, you know. And because we're so object obsessed, we have this taking mentality. And people think giving is the only compassion. No, exploration is the greatest compassion. You as a human being, um, advancing your civilization in a new way, there is no greatest honor. That means there was a time where I wanted to kind of like playfully in my mind, I fathomed in the future, I start this kind of, uh, I wanted to give medals. I wanted to acknowledge certain, like, the thing is, like, everything is happening, we as individuals are happening, but we are happening in a collective environment, and strangely, like a video game, only in our conscious waking state as a physical phenomenon we have access. So literally like a video multiplayer online video game, excuse me, everybody logs in and into their accounts and characters, and they all go into this online cyberspace kind of setting. So that world of the multiplayer online game, and it's you guys might not believe it, but there's like a multiplayer online game. I got shocked when I was reading the like statistics. It has like 85 million people involved in it. So what does that mean? That means people have found time throughout their lifetime to have a cyber existence. And I was like, this has to go somewhere. It has to go somewhere. It's like it's definitely a weird pattern. So many people are trying to live digital lives. Okay? So this existence, this attention going to cyberspace, um, it's like really like this. It's like, what's the best thing to put our attention on as human beings? On the technologies we want to advance. So put your attention on what you want to advance in your moment. Beauty is multidimensional. Anytime I've experienced an emotion, it's literally like the collision of memories. I think the human being's attention has a gravitational pull of subjective content. I actually feel that maybe we don't have the external eyes to see it, but one day maybe we will have the technology to do so. But we will notice in a subtler density there's a lot of geometrical shapes. So information can be translated in many ways. What does that mean? That means when you look at how something is in form, how it's in like a certain shape, then that shape can be translated in many ways. But if that shape keeps changing, it can't be translated, right? So that means in this life, certain things were stable enough for us to be like, okay, this cup is a cup. But certain things are maybe moving at speeds that we cannot even see to even consider their reality. So here's the idea. It's not that we just want, it's like it has to be real, bro. It's like, what is the real? That is the question. And what is the activity of this mind? Why is it that strangely, don't you guys, doesn't anybody feel it's super weird that out of all the species on this planet, we built something this advanced compared to them? Isn't it strange that in some sense in evolutionary biology, we go back to a chimpanzee descendant and an unknown descendant? Do you know? So we are like chimp and who knows? So interesting. So guys, I'm looking at the chat section, and Bruce, you're attempting a creative language deconstruction. Let me tell you something about language. You can use it with rhythms, or you can use it in an analytical way. That means right now you have, so Bruce, I'm going to tell you in the chat section, I know what you're doing with these words, because there was a time where suddenly my vision became open that a word has more than one word in it. You know, like when you look at the word nowhere, but you see a space between the WH, you're now here. So technically nowhere is like now here. You know, it's like how the experience of the here and now is. It will feel like nowhere. You know, and you shouldn't fear that. You shouldn't fear the unknown. So I would say that there's this rule I have with writing, Bruce, that I'm going to tell you like this, okay? And I think anybody who follows this rule, your true style as a writer will immediately reveal itself. And this style is very easy. Don't write anything until that idea is so important that it can't be missed. Do you see what I mean? So Bruce, I'm trying to tell you how there is a sort of rhythm that opens with language, and you have to set the bar high. That means you, like anybody, just get a stack of paper, put it on a table or somewhere you're nearby, and you have access to, and just only write, only pick up that pen and write on that paper when an idea is so important. It is so important that you have to give it shape, because you don't want to forget it, you know. And I'm telling you, when you honor language as a technology, rhythmically your emotions speak. That means there's been times where I've just had an emotion, and the words and the language and everything in the moment was just moving as that rhythm, you know? It's not an explosion. It's a trust of the unknown, and when you trust the unknown, you strangely subconsciously trusted what you know. So you become active, your intelligence becomes active. But when you fear the unknown, when you fear, it's like, what is there really to fear, people? You know, it's like we're alive, you know, once physically, and you have certain opportunities to engage and build your civilization, and that's it. And then tag your future generations, and then we drift into the context of the world. Right now, we're right there where the concept is, so we can evolve it, we can do something, you know? And this has to come from care. Like, that's it. There's no such, I don't believe in any sort of leadership outside of the word care. You just have to care. You know, you just have to go to an environment and care and see. Imagine if you had a company, you have to literally care for that employee. Do you know, you know what I mean? Like, here's the thing. We have to adjust, and systems that don't adjust don't update. It's like right now, most people, we're still doubting if we should trust some thoughts or not. We're fighting over language right now. We're throwing language like mud and sticks back in the day, like chimps throwing mud at each other. We're throwing language at each other. You know what you know, sometimes, you know, we dance through language. I call it the linguistic simulation. So technically, I have a relationship with language that when it's not around, I am not a concept to myself. When it's around, when I need to speak, the instant I need to activate, use that technology, instantly accessible. Because when you become bilingual, this is the thing. Like a bilingual person may comprehend this, because first of all, being bilingual, every person has the ability to see multiple dimensions in everything. Okay, so you gotta understand, it's like language is based on an image, and you're just finding different words for that image. Do you know what I mean? And so, for example, there's times when I speak where it's like I can notice it's hilarious when it's really how the environment makes you feel. I feel nothing great has ever been made without some person trusting enough what will happen. That's it. You got to trust. It's like, here's the thing. If you want one step ahead, you'll always be a step behind. But if you think 10 steps ahead, you may be 3 steps ahead, you know? Oh man. Guys, you know what's hilarious? I was thinking maybe the temperature in the UN, United Nations, the temperature of the room has an influence on the psychology of the world leaders. Imagine they make the United Nations so cold, you know? I think they should make negotiating rooms with extra oxygen in it, you know? Like rooms where United Nations diplomats, like, politicians negotiate in, they should make those rooms filled with oxygen, you know? Like how casinos are and whatnot. Like, it makes sense, no, if you're going to be conversing. So I think if I ever make, like, I have this vision that in the future, hopefully I can start this school, and this sort of School of Athens 2.0 kind of idea. I just want human beings to realize that before we become machines, before we become trapped in the simulation of machines, let us experience the full evolution of language. And you can't have language evolve. So in some sense, it's like you giving yourself a freedom of expression, an ultimate freedom of expression in society. And then people are going to be like, why, man? Why are you being so free? You got to listen to the status quo. But then you're like, the status quo is going to eventually come to this conclusion. You know? So for me, it's that how can we even build a freedom of an advanced civilization if we can't if we can't feel free? How can you help others be free? Do you see? So we have to climb out of our ethnocentrism. Then when we're content with our own ethnocentrism, we get to see beyond it. Anything you're not comfortable with changing, you don't get to see it evolve. That's nature. All right. Let's get to the core of this talk. I've been stalling a little bit. So, guys, my attention is going to go to the talk, and then I'll engage the chat section for a short Q&A afterwards, if need be. Hare Krishna. Where has the world brought us? How far will our questions go? How wide will our eyes open? We have to attempt the new, or we have denied the future. Attempt the new. Attempt the new. Remember these words. The world turns you, but the opportunity of life is that you also get a chance to turn the world. There is different ways of movement and access to disposition of psychology in the environment, but one has to care for the environment. That means whoever is listening to me now, you're not just a concept, you're a concept with a context. You're a self in a world. And so the study of knowledge, the study of education, is all about how is this self experiencing the world and how is the world moving the self. Once this is understood experientially, you realize from the beginning of your life you have been getting experiences. These experiences have a rawness of form, a rawness of design. Behind your eyes there are oceans that you must sail through. And so these oceans do not mean, in some sense, an avoidance of nature's phenomena. You see, on some level, you will find a search that this search will take you out of the lesser realms of the attachments, the perversions, the obsessions, the addictions, the desires. You will suddenly see something more important than where you have accepted yourself to be, and then rise, as mankind will. The psychology comes to contentment. It understands that it can endlessly see versions of self in the world, and it can endlessly see versions of world for that self to be in. So ultimately, the self and the world are how the attention has been divided. And the attention has a sacredness, a rawness, a presence. This presence is the unspeakable. And in my youth, I couldn't accept it. In 2014, when I gave these talks, I felt like that person with the machete in the Amazons. You know, that's in my inner realms that I was going to go find this. And I only realized that the greatest treasure of the inner realms is the ability to find the outer treasure. And the outer treasure is an exertion of an energetic opportunity. What that means is think of how many human beings in life, they have lived lives that have only related to themselves. It's as if they have been hidden from the world at large. And so that is the calling of the human being, that you realize that it's the greatest effort of the tribe so far. So you have to let it be efficient. It's literally that moment when freedom is the only option. But freedom from context and concept not changing. You become free. This free is not a concept. This sense of freedom is not conceptual. It is how you're being before you do anything. It's a freedom of nature's space. The soldier in the trenches of World War II lit his cigarette, wondering about why he was there, why the world was in that situation. The soldier realized this is how history has chosen to walk, and so the moment will move on. The moment will move on. To have emotions on image after some point in a world where the image is changing is meaningless. So the superior state of the human species is, in some sense, we are creatures in a world, but we also decided to build a world upon this nature. So what does that mean? That means back in the day when we were in the jungles, the environment, you look at animals, just look at animals in nature. They are, their imagination is their environment. What does that mean? That means a human being, and let's say a mountain lion seeing a nature photographer for the first time, that nature photographer is like the newest imagination for that mountain lion. Do you see? So the mountain lion is limited to its environment. You know, so I feel before we actually are individuals, we are the environment. I think many people, if there was a Buddhist, I would argue that that Buddhist had lived many lifetimes as just land. It's like every place you put your feet on, like that has been like the eyes of, dimensions. Or how they would say there were gods listening through the walls. Your choice is strangely a power. Its initial effect is in your inner realms. Any choice you make, it's a commitment. And a commitment means you have to exert your attention in a certain way. And if human beings master concentration, that means, it's like this is a cool thing to teach kids, I think. I mean, I don't have kids, but I was thinking if I was a kid and someone taught me this, I was like, holy shit. Like if I had a time machine. And what it is, children are fascinated by the concept of hyperspeed. Like a spaceship moving at hyperspeed. I don't know what kid would not be fascinated by that, you know? So hyperspeed, going fast, being super strong, these are fascinating to kids. Now imagine like a parent goes to their child and they say, okay, now I want you, just like how spaceships can go at hyperspeed, I want you to be hyper alert. I want you to practice your attention. Have the ability to attach and detach. Have the ability to navigate through the simple and the complex. Have an ability to confront the known and confront the unknown. Have an ability to be, have an ability to do, have an ability to watch, have an ability to be the watcher's movement in the inner realms. Do you see what I'm saying? As Rumi says, a secret freedom opens from a crevice you can barely see. And what if that crevice was the two stargates on your face? Literally, the eyes are a gate for starlight. I mean, doesn't get more stargate than that. Vision is incredible. The world will remember. The voice of a simple world. I feel our external realms should be simplified. I feel our inner realms should be complexified. I feel we should strive for more complex archetypes. We shouldn't throw away the ego. We should see it as a technology to update. That means I want like future generations, endlessly conversing about the disposition of the psyche. Pretty much, I'm wondering, like, most people have desires beyond their suffering. They want something that makes something that they dislike stop, for example. But I was thinking that that's not the proper mindset. Like, even I saw these motivational videos where it was just pretty much these, jacked people in a gym, and they were just, they're like, work hard, never give up, work hard, never give up. And I was like, okay, but like, what about observance? What about wondering about where you're working hard, what direction you're working hard to, what are the consequences? First thing one has to do is whatever I feel they want to achieve, they have to wonder about, they have to close their eyes and they have to see an image of it that's possible. And when that image of it that is possible is so real to them, then I feel they will live a life where that phenomenon will simply, it's real to them if it happens real. Guys, to infuse the wonder of the Sufi tradition with the Vedic tradition, and to create a new context of Dad Vishnu. When gods honor each other, universes celebrate. I feel that secret freedom is the question, who am I? And that question, some people fear it, some people love it, some people love it too much. But that question is an ultimate question. It's one of those ultimate mysteries. Okay? How is the self here? How is the world here? How are they simultaneously here? What is here before thought? What was here before language was learned? Pre-thought? And in some sense, when the attention has found truth, would it be a shape? And Mr. Within is telling you, no, I feel it won't. To honor Rumi, guys, randomly, you know, I'm gonna read the quotes of his guru, Shams Tabrizi. And Shams Tabrizi was like this next level mystic, dervish. It is never late to ask yourself, am I ready to change my life? Am I ready to change myself? Shams Tabrizi saying this, guys. However old we are, whatever we went through, it is always possible to be reborn. If each day is a copy of the last one, what a pity. Every breath is a chance to be reborn. He says every breath is a chance to reborn, to be reborn. But to be reborn into a new life, you have to die before dying. There we go. You got to die before you die. That technically means the ideal of you has to change. You'll have to notice your mind before you. You have to notice how your mind changes before your body changes, pretty much. Shams Tabrizi says the chemistry of mind is different from the chemistry of love. The mind is careful, suspicious. He advances little by little. He advises, be careful, protect yourself, whereas love says, let yourself go. The mind is strong, never falls down, while love hurts itself, falls into ruins. But isn't it in ruins that we mostly find the treasures? A broken heart hides so many treasures. Wow. Guys, that is it. That means our obsession for order has made us avoid the wisdom in chaos. And because we've avoided chaos, we've never been able to change it. So anything you fear in your life, that dimension of your life has stopped updating. So that's why fear is one of those things where when it happens, you should get excited. You know, not in a messed up way, but I'm saying like you should get excited. Not like in the movies, you see, but I'm saying like when fear happens, you should be considerate. It's a call to action. It's literally like the village is under siege back in the day, as if, you know, it's an intensity. The human being is a multi-dimensional being, both physically, you can experience different states. Some certain states of incredible intensity, certain states of incredible simplicity and gentleness. Like, I can't tell you, I think everybody in their bed is like an enlightened being. That moment when you're about to fall asleep, you're like, you're as enlightened as you could be that day. Shams Tabrizi says, instead of resisting to changes, surrender. Let life be with you, not against you. If you think my life will be upside down, don't worry. How do you know down is not better than upside? And guys, if we were more philosophical, we would say, how do you know what up and down is on a sphere in a vacuum? Shams Tabrizi says there are more fake guides, teachers in the world than stars. The fact that people think there's guides outside of them and teachers outside of them is really the error, I think. The real guide is the one who makes you see your inner beauty, not the one who wants to be admired and followed. Yeah. Because, guys, I mean, think about history. When you think about how long history is, you're like, I'm just like this tiny little sand grain falling from the hourglass. Like, it's like, what can I really get? You know? even Alexander the Great was like, you know, when he passed away, they put him on a boat and his arms were open and people were like, why? Why was Alexander the Great's arms open? And he said, because he wanted to tell the world that I came and I conquered and I got so much stuff, but I left empty-handed. When you discover your mortality, that's when you actually become a real human being. That's when you can't be violent to your civilization anymore, because it's the only thing here that's changing. That's where the meaning is moving forth. Shams Tabrizi says, a life without love is a waste. Should I look for spiritual love or material or physical love? Don't ask yourself this question, Shams Tabrizi is saying. Discrimination leads to discrimination. Love doesn't need any name, category, or definition. Love is a world itself. Either you're in at the center, either you're out yarning. Shams Tabrizi says, the whole universe is summed up in the human being. Devil is not a monster waiting to trap us. He's a voice inside. Look for your devil in yourself, not in the others. Don't forget that the one who knows his devil knows his God. That's insane. But it's another way of saying, like, once you see the chaos and order of your life, you kind of know what's going on. So on some level, it would be a suggestion that the levels of life can be ad infinitum, and if you want to just externally live, like immortality could be a very divine error. But I don't know. It's like, it's an intense quote, guys. Anyways, let's see what else he says. The universe is a complete, unique entity. Everything and everyone is bound together with some invisible strings. Do not break anyone's heart. Do not look down on those weaker than you. One sorrow at the other side of the world can make the entire world suffer. One's happiness can make the entire world smile. Shams Tabrizi. Do you guys believe this? This guy was saying this stuff 700 years ago. Shams Tabrizi. It's as if he was talking in the future. Shams Tabrizi says, when everyone is trying to be something, be nothing. Range with emptiness. Emptiness is definitely key, guys. And guys, let me tell you, this is an easy access to that kind of, let me say it like this. It's like when you see an object is empty and you look at it and the meaning comes, then you free from yourself from how the eyes of the anything outside of you imbues life in your image. Do you know how many people in this world have seen me as a person, and each one of those people have seen me as a different kind of person? Do you know what I mean? So I'm telling you, we imbue life into the object. The Buddha said this. He said that the nature of objective phenomena is empty. It's the nature of the moving mind that is the animation of the value in the phenomena. Sorry guys, just drinking coffee here. Alright, let's see. Shams Tabrizi. I'm going to finish this quote tunnel, guys, and maybe say a few more things and end the talk. Shams Tabrizi says, "This world is like a mountain. Your echo depends on you. If you scream good things, the world will give it back. If you scream bad things, the world will give it back. Even if someone says badly about you, speak well about him. Change your heart to change the world." Shams Tabrizi says the past is an interpretation. The future is an illusion. The world does not move through time as if it were a straight line proceeding from the past to the future. Instead, time moves through and within us in endless spirals. Eternity does not mean infinite time, but simply timelessness. If you want to experience eternal illumination, put the past and the future out of your mind and remain within the present moment. Oh snap. Oh snap, guys. And that's an enlightenment snap. I mean, this deal about the present moment, what can I say? I mean, on some level, yes, we are so bewildered by wanting to be something in the future that we fear ourselves from our own ability, and then we go to the self-help industry only to have all these enlightened gurus tell us just be here and now, bro. You know, and why? Because when you're in the here and now, you got to treat your mind like a pond, guys. I'm not joking. Just honestly, just wonder about this. Treat your mind like a pond. That means when you get angry, as if rocks are thrown in this pond, just remain and watch the moment, and the ripples, let the ripples settle, then speak. There was this warrior where he was about to, in some sense, in battle back in the day, kill someone, you know, and then the warrior spat on his face. The enemy he was about to kill spat on his face, and there was a lot of people watching, right? And it was a situation where this warrior just stood up, and he had defeated the opponent, but he just stood up and he just walked a little bit and let that anger and hate go, and then came back to the story of the world, you know. He paused the video game and then went back to it, you know. Now, I'm not saying that was a warrior mindset. What I'm saying now, we have to have that in. Right now, it's the era of civility. Any person wanting to be violent and savage in society, you don't understand where the world's going. The world is we're discovering ourselves as advanced minds. It's like literally we're evolving into minds. Think about it. We were an object. Evolution is happening. This evolutionary process. This object became a subject to itself. And now this subject is wondering about an unknown mind and acknowledging the language threshold, the edge of thought and language. And guys, this concept, the way what I'm saying, the language threshold, this thing that I designed, it's like I feel, I don't know why, I think I'm freaking out, but I think it's the most important discovery of our species. That beyond language, our experiential meaning continues. That what life means is not just your senses, is how your senses are being processed in an animate way. that is known and unknown, like a coin flipping in the air, and it hasn't come down yet. So you're like, wait a minute, am I body? Am I mind? Am I nothing? Am I everything? What am I? What am I? Like. Shams Tabrizi says, patience is not sitting and waiting. It is foreseeing. It is looking at the thorn and seeing rose, looking at the night and seeing the day. Lovers are patient and know that the moon needs time to become full. Shams Tabrizi says, you can study God through everything and everyone in the universe. Because God is not confined in a mosque, synagogue, or church, but if you are still in need of knowing where exactly His abode is, there's only one place to look for Him, in the heart of a true lover. That means, guys, it's a state. It's a vibe. Truth is a vibe. I can totally see that, I don't know, guys. If we don't care for evolution, we won't see it. If we don't care for advancement, we won't see it. If we cower away in our inner realms as if like our minds have become caves and we're not listening to the responsibility of the species, we're not marching out towards the unknown, then what is life? What is life? Is it just a mere presence? Were you just something that existed, or did you really live? And what is living? And you come to live. It's like so many people say, go live your life. Go, man, be free and live your life. And then you run and you're like, okay, I'm free and I'm going to go live my life. And then you run and you're like, what is life? And you see this civilization that is not like a fax machine. You see this system that requires to be updated, as if we need philosophers running in the streets with lanterns shouting at people, design, 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 till dawn arises, Design till the rise of dawn, For me, that's the thing. I mean, my life is sure. It has a physical dimension. It has a incredible work-oriented dimension, but it also has this dimension where I'm like, who was I? And why did I get to experience my mind this way? And that fascinates me. And the unknown is not something that brings fear, I feel. I feel it is where every explorer is running to. So right now, whoever you are, in any field you are, literally, even if you're, let's say, a CEO of a company, a world leader, whatever, just look at the system and wonder about its simple and complex spectrum axis, and wonder about its known and unknown. And ask yourself, you who are in some sort of power of influence, what are you waiting for? Don't you want to see the edge of efficiency? It's collective. I am so happy that there are others in the world. And that mere thought means that regardless if we die, but where humanity is going, literally, I feel like this lifetime of mine is literally just like you're a guest in some manifest experience. What does freedom mean if it can't be defined? The hardest challenge is trying to get 8 billion human beings on a rock in the middle of nowhere to build an advanced civilization. If I can get just let's go 12% for the sake of that article. If I can get 12% of this species to attempt to go towards and walk towards an advanced civilization, that's the game to play. You see, it's like Jordan Peterson he spoke in this talk of his. I think he was in a debate with Sam Harris in Vancouver, if I remember correctly. And Jordan Peterson was he was speaking about the ethos that, in some sense, yes, on some level, factually, empirically, religion is void. The story of religion is void. But on some level, it's a story people are inhabiting, and it's like something that's giving some people direction. You know, you don't know how many people who they go through certain, how do I say it? I don't know, guys. It's just this feeling that we have a shot at an advanced civilization and we're not taking it. And even Wayne Gretzky says, like, you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And that's so true. And I feel that an advanced civilization is upon us. I feel literally what needs to happen is that the inner realms need to stand in a grander way, and the outer realms will literally be drawn to that. So it's as if, like Mr. Within is saying, all those people in the New Age community who are standing in front of the mirror, and are like, okay, time to do affirmations in the mirror. It's like, I'm gonna be good today. I'm gonna be good today. The guy saying that in the mirror. That law of attraction thing? Like, let me tell you, instead of you doing that, Mr. Within is asking if you have to, if you're one of those affirmation people, in the New Age community, I want to ask you to go in front of the mirror and instead of saying what you want, literally do that affirmation, but for an advanced civilization. Because you see, this is the issue. We've come and based reality on matter, and we've made imagination not important, but we don't realize it is actually an inner phenomena that is imbuing life to the outer. So technically, we are considering the effect of our perception, which is the matter, the reality. We are not realizing the cause is unknown because Mr. Within personally feels it's non-dual. That's the secret crevice that Rumi is speaking about. That's what happens when you ask, who am I? You come to a point where you're like, what is this? I? And then you realize, wait a minute, have I been identifying with the letter I this whole time? I have been identifying with I? you know? And so, yeah, it's like so many people, not everybody has an iPhone, but everybody has an I thought. A thought of who they are. And that thought is hovering in a space which is your whole mind. And if there was a soul, I walk in a school of thought where my experience of soul is literally me being my whole moment. That's it. It's like right now, as I'm speaking, my hands are moving. So most immediately I feel as if like I'm like, what do you call it? It's like I'm like, it's like right now I'm in the room and I'm aware of the room, but there's states where I am the whole room and I'm aware of what's in me that surpasses more than my objective being. It also extends into the subtler planes of abstraction and whatnot. That means you don't just exist in a real way to yourself. You are also existing in unreal potentials until you make a decision and one of those potentials actualizes. So the mind is a more sophisticated movement than actually our body because the mind is moving the body. And what is the mind? For now, we're kind of like, all right, you're a person, I'm a person, and you're a person. But who knows, in the future, in regards to the cyberspace crossroad, our heads could all be connected to a giant computer, and then that would be the extinction of personhood, but not the extinction of the species, you know? Or it could be a sort of, we're evolving into a collective mind in the future, and because that mind is collective in the future, it has access beyond time. So technically, every person's concept of a guardian angel or whatever, any sort of interdimensional thing, is technically the future communicating with its own past. That's why the future knows your mistakes, knows what it needs to protect you from. So some people spoke about the logos, Mr. Within. This is Mr. Within's, hypothesis, poetic hypothesis on what I feel the logos is. The logos was a term that came from Heraclitus, and it was pretty much, they saw that all philosophers in the world, they have an inner guiding voice. Even though Shams Tabrizi here says don't listen to that voice, but that inner guiding voice can approaches the being differently based on how the being is. So the inner guiding voice is not to blame for the experience of the person. The person is to blame for where their attention went, So, anyways. I don't know how to say it, guys. I'm simply making this point that it was, after some point, it's like attention is present, then phenomena is happening. So I can tell you, if somebody asks me, how's Mr. Within, what's your experience of mind? I will tell you it's like a camera where the cameraman is looking through, but the cameraman has no clue how he looks like. He only has a clue of what's in front of the camera moving. So what's in front of my visual sight, what's moving, and how my visual sight gives me variations, geometric variations, extends to geometric abstract variations of itself. Because that's the mind. The mind can move an object as a subject. The effort must be made, really. For me, at some point, I feel like I think it's normal to feel foolish in a world this big, but it's also important to certain times design it. For me, when you look at life as a designer, that means you look at its values before an ideological system or identity has developed. That's the value of designers. That means if you're a parent who your child is a designer, like your child is going to be incredibly self-aware of the shapes of phenomena. You know. Sorry guys, I think I read just a part of this Shamster Breezy code. Anyways, I want to read it in case, I'm going to read it again just in case. Patience is not sitting and waiting, it is foreseeing. It is looking at the thorn and seeing the rose, looking at the night and seeing the day. Lovers are patient and know that the moon needs time to become full. You can study God through everything and everyone in the universe. Because God is not confined in a mosque, synagogue, or church, but if you are still in need of knowing where exactly his abode is, there's only one place to look for him, in the heart of... Oh, yeah, I read this. What am I saying? Yeah, sorry guys, I was repeating myself. Shams Tabrizi says, whatever happens in your life, no matter how troubling things might seem, do not enter the neighborhood of despair. Even when all doors remain closed, God will open up a new path only for you. Be thankful. This guy wrote this 700 years ago, folks. But it's insightful because he says even when all doors remain closed, God will open up a new path only for you. Be thankful. It is easy to be thankful when all is well. A Sufi is thankful not only for what he has been given, but also for all that he has been denied. Wow. Shams Tabrizi says, no matter what people call you, you're just who you are. Keep to this truth. You must ask yourself, how is it you want to live your life? We live and we die. This is the truth that we can only face alone. No one can help us, so consider carefully what prevents you from living the way you want to live your life. Shams Tabrizi says you learn by reading, but understand by love. You know, it's spelled in capital here. Shams Tabrizi says love is a travel. All travelers, whether they want or not, are changed. No one can travel into love and remain the same. Don't search for heaven and hell in the future. Both are now present. Whenever we manage to love without expectations, calculations, negotiations, we're indeed in heaven. Whenever we fight, hate, we are in hell. Shams Tabrizi says intellect takes you to the door, but it doesn't take you into the house. Shams Tabrizi says be sure that someday you'll praise and thank God for your unanswered prayers that once you had wept for them. Shams Tabrizi says do not worry about tricks and cheaters. If some people are trying to trap and hurt you, truth is also trapping them. Hole diggers will always fall in their holes. No bad remains unpunished, and no good remains without being awarded. So have faith in justice and let the rest be. Wherever you go, east, west, north, or south, think of it as a journey into yourself. The one who travels into itself travels the world. That's an interesting notion, guys, because in mysticism, there is this idea that there were certain yogis that they had this power where they had multiple locations. So the person was seen in multiple places at once by different people, but the person, it was weird. It was like there was this guru in India. He had never left this temple, but some people had seen him back home in different countries and they had all been drawn to come to India, you know? Like in their innermost, they had seen him or something. And the guy had never left like the temple. So it's about how I guess the more of a mind we are, the more our being is a wave. So I could say that the more you realize what's going on, the more energy there is at your disposal. And how that energy echoes is a different matter. Anyways, I think there's one more quote left. Okay, 3 more. The past is a fog on our minds. The future? Question mark. A complete dream. We can't neither guess the future, neither change the past. Shams Tabrizi. I mean, some people can guess the future. I mean, you can guess it. You can't be accurate, though. Shams, Shams Tabrizi says to get closer to truth and right, we need a beautiful and soft heart. Shams Tabrizi says that means just abide by your nature. That means if you don't do anything, who are you? And then if you do anything, will you still be aware of who you are? That's it. Shams Tabrizi says there may be one fault in a man that conceals 1,000 qualities, or one excellence that conceals 1,000 faults. The little indicates much. That's true. Because it does indicate much, but on another level, people are attention-driven creatures. We were evolved to, like a hunter, kind of like focus on certain points throughout the day, certain views. So on some level, yeah, but on another level, you have advanced in where your attention has been really. Out of curiosity, can the listeners hear the birds outside the window? I think it's the coolest time to be alive. Literally, we're experiencing ourselves more than our minds. What does that mean? That means attention is noticing its multiplicity. That means as I'm speaking here with you, I'm also aware of various other imagery that's around. Let me tell you, the inner realms don't have a location, they are the location. So the inner realms are evocational. So the instant you think of, like right now, I say apple, like if you just think about the word apple, an image of an apple can come to your mind. If you notice, that image had a slight delay. So it was as if you were waiting for the image. Sometimes it's instantaneous when you're familiar, but if you imagine someone with a kind of an accent unfamiliar to your ear speaks to you, you know, and they're speaking in English, but their accent is unfamiliar to your ear. So in some sense, you keep saying, "What are you saying, man? What are you saying?" And then it suddenly the person realizes like gets the word, and suddenly it's like out of this meaninglessness there was suddenly meaning extracted, right? I feel our inner realms are here to update our outer realms. I feel our evolution is was from an outer unconscious process. We became from like the movement of an unconscious world led to the design of the unconscious legs of a creature. We lived as a creature without the sophistication or capacity of the mind. Then we evolved to a point where we had the capacity to be aware of ourselves. So in a strange way, evolutionary biologists are saying if you leave matter, if you leave like this unique cellular genetical design on the earth, after like billions of years, you're gonna have civilizations. You know, so it's just like from this bacteria under the sea. There's this apocalypse. Let me see if I can find it. There was this sort of apocalypse that we survived as a species, not as a species, as on a cellular level, we survived. Anyways, I can't find it now, but like, you know what I mean. There was an event like that. For me, I feel it's like this. Civilization should be seen like this broken spaceship, and we are the ones who have to rebuild it. And when I say spaceship, because I have a vision that I feel this is the best strategy our species has to bypass extinction. And it's this idea I've designed, I call it Civilization 2.0. And it has three phases. And I've predicted that if certain great transformations occur, then this can actually happen. Right? And I've predicted it that in 600 years, there could be a potential that whoever you are, let's say walking in a park, you know, and you suddenly see, wait a minute, are the skyscrapers getting taller? And then you recognize all human civilization and its infrastructure is lifting into the sky. And Civilization 2.0 is Mr. Within's way of saying we got to go live for 2,000 years in our orbit and let the Earth heal. And the phase one is design sky cities. Phase two is in some sense Earth heaven up. The heavenized earth, all those people who've been trying to find paradise on earth, now phase two is actually how you're going to go build a paradise. We pretty much, this is the idea. We strategize, we go into our orbit, we live for 2,000 years in sky cities or spaceship cities, which are the evolutionary version of the sky city. And as we're living for 2,000 years in the sky, as we're living, as we're living 2,000 years in the sky, we're going to be making Earth like an uninhabited planet, paradise like Earth. Like imagine if we wanted to find the best planet, like an uninhabited Earth paradise kind of planet in the distance of the cosmos. It's like I'm saying we go live in our orbit, we take all human infrastructure in the orbit for 2,000 years, and we let this planet restore and species flourish. Do you know how many animal species are going extinct? It's so messed up. It's like there's no aliens, there's nothing. It's an empty universe. And animals, which are rare creatures on our planet, we're letting them go extinct because we're like, yo, we want more factory space. Like what is this? You know what I mean? We have to either acknowledge ourselves as robots and build a technological empire, or we have to acknowledge ourselves as human beings, natural beings, and maintain a sort of natural storyline to the world. That's the important, crucial factor about the ethos, the kind of the ethos the future civilizations, our future civilization, the future of our civilization requires. I feel, let me explain phase three and I'll move past this idea. Phase three of Civilization 2.0 is I have envisioned that right now we are not a yin yang civilization. We are a yang civilization. We have to bring forth the yin. We have to evoke a new honor for our minds. That means when we see a child in a poverty commercial that's messed up, you know, we don't just get sad because that child doesn't have food to eat. We get sad because that child could be the next Einstein. That child could be the next, you know, uh, Elon Musk. So we have to defend the potential of the civilization. And that means you have to care for not just the rights of other human beings, you have to care also for their eyes. And sometimes human beings can get pulled in their inner realm and you gotta pull them out. And I'll give you an example of this. There was this man who I consider him to be one of the greatest human beings that has ever lived. Okay? And this was this old man, one of the smartest human beings that has ever lived. Okay? There was this old man, and he had a house beside this bridge that many people would go to use the wrong way when their life felt worthless to them. And so, this man at night, late at night, he would go with his dog or something, you know, he would go and uh, he would go on this bridge for walks at night, and he would go. This man had saved 200 people's lives from that bridge. 200 people who wanted to go jump by just talking to them, inviting them for tea, and treating them like a human being. The issue with self-worth is that we are the way we're behaving. We're building a civilization that we're gonna feel not human in. We have to care to change the sails of civilization towards the value of the humanity part of it, right? We want to become an interstellar species. That means it's like suddenly a global community comes and confronts all those people in the world who are, in some sense, let's say, being racist or whatever. And the global community comes and says, you guys kidding me? We want to become an interstellar species. We want to become an interstellar civilization, a Type 3 civilization that harnesses the power of its sun, and you guys are fighting based on how you guys look? Are you kidding me? Like, that's the global community we need, where people will be embarrassed to be racist when we want to be advanced. When we are just a bunch of creatures on a rock, think a bigger picture. In the long term, it's like, have you heard this saying, the enemy of my enemy is my friend? The enemy of all human beings is the unknown circumstances that can literally wipe our species. So for me, it was as if another call to arms. It's like back in the day, imagine someone's village under attack. For me, it's a civilization challenging, being tested by time. And its strength is in the energy and momentum that goes to it. That means the way I felt was it was as if I was trying to walk to my own pure lands. I was trying to escape the suffering of the world. Suddenly I heard a cry. As if, like, imagine you're walking, you think the battle is over, or you're trying to run out of the battle, and you're trying to run out of the battle, and you suddenly hear a cry. You hear, like, the sound of something that suddenly your heart's honor can't be dishonored by. Do you know? And it's like that warrior that's trying to run away suddenly sees, whoa, I'm running the wrong direction. When you run away, it could be the wrong direction. You got to be sure. So for me, it's this call of action to notice that a civilization is breathing here. And the inner realms are the only way it updates. What? Animals are going to come and build our civilization for us? It's like in recent news. You know, you turn on the TVs, you know? All the birds in the world have built a tower to honor all the human species. You know? It's like all the birds in the world build an airport, you know? It's like this. It's like on some point nobody has your eyes, so who can comment? So in some sense you are left with your eyes. And Mr. Within is just saying most people when they're left with their eyes, they just want to see more, they just want to endlessly upload. But I'm saying it's more about not just even what something looks like, it's how it gets there. Sometimes who you are as a person is how you enter the room. What can I say? We're being drawn back to the fascination of an unknown world rather than a known self. You know yourself only for a while, you know, on this earth. And the value of the mind is that it's moving faster than the body, so you feel like so many different versions of yourself in one lifetime. You know, because there's so many ways, even deep sleep is a gap between the sense of selfhood. So imagine Albert Einstein said time is, we created time so that everything doesn't happen at all at once. And Plato even says time is the moving image of eternity. So let's entertain this idea, everything is happening at once. It's like the temporal is the illusion in a macro-eternal phenomena. That means the effect of an endlessly energetic system could be a temporary energetic creature. That was the point, guys. Just your inner realms, update the outer realms, don't fear your mind, understand it, or at least see how you're standing under it. Because in the wallpaper there's this epic statue of Krishna in this art. I don't know who drew this, but guys, if anybody is a fan of these talks, if anyone can find the name of these artists, please tell me so I can update the description. But anyways, I'm going to tell you a story of Krishna. Is this Krishna? Yeah. No, this is Shiva. Excuse me, this is not Krishna. Is this? The statue is, Alright, let me Google this, guys. Let me see. I'm pretty sure Shiva had more arms. No, it is Shiva. It is Shiva. There we go. That's Shiva. Alright, guys. So, I don't know if I know a story about Shiva. Probably like... Let me see. Shiva is the destructive force. It's the destructive dimension. So any human being who they animated the world to have a personality could potentially, at an experience of destruction, have a sort of atmosphere for an archetype with an interference in an onion style multidimensionality from like a higher dimension. So what does that mean? That means right now we think it's just what we see, but then we're noticing that the one who's seeing it is unknown. This unknown is the permission for the new. Because if the unknown was known, why would you need to know anything? So it's only when the moment becomes unknown you can know something new, really. You know, so the unknown is nothing to really fear. It's how you update by marching into the unknown, recognizing that this life is your life, but the you is the opportunity. So I would say that I feel my free will, and I feel my free will and my individualism and my consciousness and an ability to navigate my attention in the conscious waking state. But in dream states, I've found a way to move as attention and even experience a body in the dream state. But in deep sleep, attention is at peace. Deep sleep is like when there's no ripples on the pond. Dream state is like the last ripple on the pond. And like all the other ripples on the pond are the conscious waking state. So I feel that throughout the day when I live, based on how the day approaches me, something breaks down inside me and something is rebuilt inside me. That means the day has its toll on you. You can't, human beings are like it's like your energy is in a unique way. If two different types, okay, let me say it like this. It's like energy can't be created or destroyed, so it transforms. So it's like when you observe how your energy transforms, you notice like something that's conscious of energy rather than just, it's like while simultaneously being energy. So we're like energy that somehow became conscious of itself. So the pattern is unique. Our so it's another way of saying like your divinity is, your existence is the proof of your divinity. The fact that there's something here is the most divine thing, you know, and something very obvious I consider it divine. I don't know how many people do, but the fact that we are so much more sophisticated as a species than all the other species on this planet. That like, you know, that means even though dolphins use their brains, but they are limited to the ocean, you know? And I was like, "What is this?" It's like, was it some sort of unknown intervention where they were like, "All right, let's see which animal has the best ability to build something," and they were like, "All right, the chimp has fingers." Oh man. So guys, that's the end of the talk. I'm gonna open it up to Q&A. If anybody has a question in the next minute, I'm available. If not, you can always find me in the Patreon community. And the Patreon community, guys, is pretty much like I decided to create a boat, and anybody who wants to get on it can. That's pretty much it. You know. Trust the worlds that you have been raised in, from dirt to man. You know, if diamonds are made in the dirt, then man is in some sense a biological diamond. And I feel literally there is a dimension accessible where it's pure geometry. For me, geometry, guys, is like, that's the language my soul speaks. You know? Alright, guys, seems like quiet. Anyways, thanks everyone for tuning in, and have a great day. make the day great, pretty much. Like even the founder of Aikido, Morio Shiba, says, create each day anew. That means the student would fail and you'd be like, Master. The student would be like, Sir, how do I not fail? And he was, sorry, like, Sensei, how do I not fail? And Sensei was like, tomorrow you gotta try again. I really don't know what you want me to say to you. Anyways, guys, we are free designers. Your mind is a designer, is a designing engine. When you realize it, it can design incredible solutions with patience. It can notice those solutions. So trust your intelligence. You have one lifetime to do so. Much blessings and namaste.